I mean, we don't, oh, it stopped recording again. I just hit the button again.
And now it's time for us to digest the lowest rung of pop culture so you don't have to. You're tuned in to the all-new Culture Cast.
Welcome to the all-new Culture Cast. This is the Kiwi.
And I'm Stacey.
And we're coming to you with another spin-off with a book review of... Stacey, what book are we reading?
Maneater.
Maneater. Now, this, I mean, all the books... Oh, wait. We should probably do you want to do our segments?
Yeah, if you want to. You can go this time with your crush. I went last time.
Crush? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What have you been watching?
What have you been watching?
Oh, not much. Actually, I've been switching to Christmas movies of late. Aside from that, just been watching, old reruns of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and that kind of thing. I'm not really up to date on any new and interesting shows.
Have you been watching the new season of It's Always Sunny?
I haven't yet. No, I've just been watching the ones that are on Hulu right now. Just because I've seen them and I've been trying to, doing sewing projects and other stuff. And so I need to have ones I've already seen in the background.
Yeah, I get that. Where you're like, I want to do something, but I want something in the background, but it has to be something that you've watched before so you don't get distracted. Though that still pulls me in sometimes. Like, oh, I love this part.
Yep, it does. It's like you know me. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose, Nick and I... We don't always get to watch the shows when they're live because, we still have an infant who doesn't go to bed early. So, we catch up on when we can and, we're into the Masked Singer. You don't watch that, right?
I don't.
It's fun, but then we'll on to our Woman Crush segment.
Woman Crush.
Okay.
So who was your Woman Crush last time? Do you remember?
I think because I was watching a lot of Rob Zombie at the time, I think I said Sherry Moon Zombie.
Yes, you did, because was the last time we podcast? Was that Halloween? I feel like we've done one since.
No, it was Halloween. Around Halloween.
Oh, time flies.
It does.
So I feel like we just did that podcast, but here we are in December already.
Yep.
Woman Crush. Well, I can tell you who my woman crush isn't. The person we're going to discuss tonight.
Yeah.
I'll go with the girl on Goldberg's. I don't know her name. Wendy something. Nick is telling me. And she's an actress on the show, but she also sings on the show, and she's got a really good voice. So because I watched Goldberg's, I'm going to go with Wendy, and I feel bad I don't actually know her name. So that's how much I know. All right.
We'll find out and inform me next time.
There you go. Or someone who actually, listens to the show can, send us an email correcting us.
There you go.
Okay. So, Maneater. I mean, all these killers that we read about, they're all disturbing on some level. And, when I was reading this book, it was like watching a train wreck, like a slow build up to, the crazy unfolding, and you're just like, dear God.
Yeah, that's definitely how this book goes. It's kind of a slow build and before it gets the ball actually rolling. I felt like, it talked about her mother's life before she was born, and then you kind of followed Katherine Knight, her name, who the killer is in this book that we read, kind of starts off from when she was born all the way up until, the later in her life when she actually committed her crime. But she was a whole ball of crazy, it seems like, from her teenage years. Well, actually, not even teenage years, her school days, and beyond that.
I was a little surprised. The first couple of chapters of the book were about Catherine's mom, but it makes sense more how Katherine came to be, learning about her mother's backstory.
Right.
With her first marriage, She had, well, like 4 sons with him, I think it said, and she realized her husband didn't love her, and so she started having an affair with was it Ken Knight?
Yes.
And so she, her husband found out about the affair, kicked her out of the house, her sons disowned her, type of a thing. So she goes, marries Ken Knight, and she thinks, her dreams are going to come true. And the same pattern just repeated with a different man. She had older sons. There's a lot that went on in this book.
Yeah.
She had. They don't really talk about them specifically. She had 2 sons, and then she had twin daughters, and she was finally happy that she had a female on her side, or so she
Right.
thought.
Right. Yeah, she had the two girls, and the one followed kind of the brothers' path, I believe, like where they were more resentful of the mother, which Catherine's mother's name is Barbara, so it's Barbie and Ken. I thought that was kind of funny.
I
but
didn't make that connection until you just said that.
yeah, and then Catherine was one of the twins, obviously, and the interesting thing about Catherine also is she had a way of, when she was a child in school and stuff, fooling people of authority and everything, thinking she was this sweet, innocent girl, when actually she had an extremely horrible temper where she would almost transform into a whole different person.
Yeah, and I think that really kind of started after her brothers were kind of like molesting her.
Yeah, her brothers were molesting her for several years before she started beating them up, pretty much. And she knew her brothers wouldn't go tell why she was beating them up, because then it would come out that they were, molesting her. So that kind of worked out in her favor, but it made a lot of built up rage inside of her. And I think she just kind of altogether, she loved men, but she hated them at the same time. Like she had to be in control
Yes.
of everything at all times.
And she was, they described like a very tall girl too. She
Yeah.
wasn't some like little tiny thing.
No, I think she was at least 6 foot, if I remember.
Yeah, I thought they said she was 6 foot too, and like muscular.
Yeah, because she wanted to follow in her dad's footsteps, so she worked in a slaughterhouse. And she first went to apply at the job, and they turned her down, and she started working somewhere else. Do you remember her first job?
It was a like a designer. Like I want to say like she was sewing clothes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, she was sewing and everything, and her work ethic and everything pretty much impressed all of her bosses. And so when she went back to the slaughterhouse to try to get that job, they gave it to her, but not in the position that she wanted. She wanted to debone and skin and dice up the pigs, pretty much. But she had to start off in a different section and eventually, work her way around the entire slaughterhouse. And
Yeah,
just stronger the whole time.
Her dad was like the top person in that slaughterhouse, and he got a little jealous, I'd say, as she was working her way up. I mean, after a year that she had been there, they gave her own set of knives.
Yeah, they gave her own set of knives as a gift and acknowledgement of her hard work. And her dad had to work harder just to keep up with her because he didn't want to be overshadowed, not just by his daughter, but a female in general. Thought it would be the talk of the slaughterhouse. And the town they lived in, the slaughterhouse, it would make it seem like as there was slaughterhouse and then there was mining. So the men either worked in the slaughterhouse or they were miners, and it seemed like that was pretty much it that was around there. So a pretty rough and tumble area, it sounds like.
We should probably also let the listeners know this story takes place in Australia. Right. And I think around this time, it's like the late 60s and the 70s when this full story took place.
Right, yep.
So when she was in the slaughterhouse, when she started working, was that in the 70s yet, or is that still the late 60s?
Oh, gosh. I want to say it's the late 60s that she started working in the slaughterhouse, and she worked there for a long time. But yeah, in Australia, I don't recall right off. Like Aberdeen or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
But the only other thing that there was to do was there was a bar, And so even though she didn't drink, she had a deal with the bartender to not let everybody know that she wasn't drinking and he was just serving her lemonade. And she would stay sober, but her antics that she pulled, because she started bar fights and things like that, people would blame it on her being drunk, but in reality, she wasn't. She just was a bully. She had a bad temper, and liked to take
Yeah.
it out on the men.
She didn't like losing control. She didn't want to be drunk because she saw what it did to other people.
Yeah, especially her dad. I think that, she looked up to her dad a lot and wanted to follow in his footsteps with the slaughterhouse and things like that, and probably to an extent make him proud, I guess. But yeah, if anybody disagreed with her in any capacity, it was going to be their head. Aberdeen, I just came across the name on the book here. Aberdeen is the town that they lived in with the slaughterhouse. And she also got into a lot of different relationships with a lot of different men in town, and it seems like those relationships always ended badly with her being abusive and just horrible. But more men kept on dating her, even when the other guys in the slaughterhouse or around the town warned them not to date Catherine, that she was crazy, pretty much. She slept with her knives above her bed, and did all sorts of different things that were abnormal in comparison to other women of her time.
You know, just so the listeners get like the good feel of it, like going back to the slaughterhouse, you mentioned the pigs. Like she took pleasure in watching the pigs suffer because I guess there's no real humane way they killed the pigs, or at least back then. So they suffered more, and she enjoyed watching the pigs suffer. And the guy who slaughtered the pigs drew it out because he knew how much she enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, they were a sick duo, those two. She would go there on her lunch break to watch him kill the pigs and sometimes chase the pigs around with her knives and see how many times she could slash them before they would die. And she liked to listen to the pigs scream and make noises and see what all they could do to get what they could do to get away with keeping them alive the longest, to see how much they could do to them before they would actually die. She was, as the book continued, talking about all the different things that she was doing. She was a very depraved individual, where she definitely enjoyed suffering of others. She very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, they also describe the pig sound as almost human sounding.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, kind of almost makes you throw up a little bit in your mouth sometimes when you're reading, about these people. I don't know why we keep doing it. It's hard to believe that people actually do stuff like this.
Oh yeah, it is. You just don't ever know what's rattling around in somebody's head. It's interesting and scary to think about all at the same time.
Yes, I know we've talked about this guy before, Chris Watts, because he seemed like the guy next door, and then it came out that he killed, his children and then his wife, and it's just, oh my God, But like with Catherine was not the girl next door. Everyone knew there was something different about Catherine.
Yeah, she was insane, and she was just obsessed with her knives. She was obsessed with being in control. She had to control every aspect of everything. Where when she got into relationships, she'd go over the top of making everything perfect. Like their living space was always immaculate. She always had dinner cooked. She kept up this whole facade of being perfect to pretty much draw these guys in and make them want to stay with her. And she's just very intense.
And she likes sex a lot, which,
Yeah.
the guys were all into that.
Right. Oh yeah, she's just all over it. Like just the intensity of everything that she did. Was just a drug to anybody that dated her until they saw through that and just saw how utterly crazy she was.
I think this would be a good segue into talking about her first marriage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she fell in love with a man, and when they first got married, did you want to talk about their wedding night? Is that what you wanted to talk about when she first?
Yeah, we can start off on, the wedding night and go on from there.
Okay, they had gotten married and went to the bar after where they all hung out at, and her husband got extremely intoxicated. And then, at the end of the night, they went back to their home, and they had wild sex. At least, what they say,
3 times.
3 times, and then he fell asleep. He passed out. I won't say he fell asleep. He just straight up passed out cold because he was so drunk. And she got so upset when she couldn't wake him up. She actually got on top of him and started strangling him to the point where he woke up and his neck was sore. It was hard for him to breathe. Like she was actually choking him out. And to back up a little bit, I guess, to go in there, we didn't mention that as Katherine was growing up, her mother
Yeah.
overshared with her completely, which probably didn't help Katherine's state of mind at all. But she got very graphic detail with completely overshared with her, and everything from her mother and her father's sex life she heard too much about, uh, the way that her father treated her mother, like beating her, the finances, everything. Anything that went on in the house, Catherine's mother shared with her. So when on her wedding night, her husband passed out after only 3 times, she got really upset because she knew that on her mother and father's wedding night, they went 5 times. And she demanded that they get to go 5 times too. And which her husband, while gasping for air and grabbing his throat, was a little disturbed that she was comparing their sex life with her own parents and why she would know that. And it is disturbing. Like, who wants to know that information?
No. I mean,
No, thank you.
her mom had no friends, and I don't think she was probably allowed to have friends, and so she was excited to have daughters, and she just way overshared, and there was no boundaries. And
Yeah.
it's weird that she would try to beat her mom's record.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the funny thing about her mother is too, if you remember when Catherine first took her husband over to meet her parents, her mother actually warned the
Yes.
husband. She's like, don't cross her, or she'll kill you. Like she will kill you if you make her unhappy. Don't mistreat her. And he kind of laughed it off as kind of the parents threatening the guy that's with their daughter kind of thing. But he found out that no, she was serious, that she was capable of some real damage.
And Catherine, being crazy as she was, she was very possessive and jealous. And David Kellett, her first husband, was at the time a truck driver, I think, for the slaughterhouse. But he was gone so much, or, she couldn't keep an eye on him. So he had to take a job paying less at the slaughterhouse so she could keep an eye on him. And I don't remember if she was pregnant yet when she first really started attacking him and accusing him of having an affair.
She started shortly before she found out she was pregnant, saying that because if he wore a shirt that was too nice, or if he came home and changed his clothes when she didn't think he should, that she thought he was dressing up for somebody else. And if he was 1 minute late, and that's not even an exaggeration, if he was 1 minute late, then when he said he was going to be home, she flew off the handle. It's because he was with another woman. It was, he was trying to impress somebody, and he hadn't been unfaithful at that point, and it just got worse as time went on, and she found out she was pregnant, and it made her even crazier. When he would go out to the bar after work, like most of the slaughterhouse employees would go to the bar for a while after work before coming home. She lose her mind.
And when she got pregnant, we don't know how far along she was in her pregnancy, but the slaughterhouse told her that she should take some time off. So then, she's at home, her husband's at work, and just her thoughts got amplified.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the more time she had to sit and think, the worse it got.
And she did attack him twice. Max says hi.
Hi, Max.
How did she attack him the first time? 'Cause I think the second time was with a frying pan, right?
Yeah, the very first time was when she choked him. I think the frying pan was her next course of action.
Okay.
Yeah, she beat him about his head and actually did some real damage to his skull. Like she bashed his head in with the frying pan. She didn't kill him. But
Surprisingly.
yeah, surprisingly, but I mean it's like he got home and the lights were off and he was like, "Oh, good. I don't have to fight with Katherine. She went to bed. All is good." And then next thing he knew, he was looking at the sky because she had come up and hit him in the head with a frying pan and just busted his skull open. And he ended up in the hospital with that. With Yeah, he had a brain injury of some sort from that and a lot of bleeding anyway. But I think that was, his real wake up call on exactly how bad she could get or what she was capable of. Because, I mean, he'd seen other tendencies and things like that. Like I said, with her hanging her knives from the slaughterhouse above their bed. She slept with them above her head, and things like that. But that was
literally the writing was on the wall and he didn't see it.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, after he healed up from that, what she get? She had 2 children with David, didn't she?
She did. So he did, and I'm not saying what he did was right. I mean, she kept accusing him of having an affair, and you kind of don't blame him for actually having an affair at that point. If you're going to be accused of having an affair, well, he got treated so bad at home. He had nothing at home to, for him. He had a crazy wife.
Right. Well, and he was already suffering the consequences of having an affair, so he may as well do it.
Right. And then he got her pregnant.
Yes.
He got his mistress pregnant. And, he decided that he was going to take off and leave. And I think this had still been at least I'm thinking around 6-ish weeks when he made this decision that he was going to leave Katherine. And the best opportunity he found was when she went into labor.
Yep. So he sent her on to the hospital, I think, with her mother. And he said he was going to pack up some things and meet them at the hospital. Well, he packed up his things and took off to go be with his mistress while, Katherine was in labor with their second child, I want to say.
No, it was the first child.
Was it their first one? Okay.
Yeah, it was a first child.
Yeah, and so she's in labor and he doesn't show up. So all her fears of him leaving and things like that, they came to fruition on that day, which made it difficult, I think, for the child. But yeah, he ran off with the mistress for some time to a whole different place, like a whole different town or whatever. Pretty far away,
and
3 hours away.
Yes, and Katherine, hated David at that point, and so here she is, a new mom. The father's not around, and you have a screaming newborn, and she at one point couldn't take it anymore, and so she left her baby on the railroad tracks. And there was a guy that was walking around and heard a screaming baby, and he, at first thought it was coming from a house, and then he realized, no, and he kept walking, and he literally stumbled across this baby as a train was coming and just nearly grabbed the baby out of the way of the train.
Right.
I don't know about you, but as I was reading that, I really thought that baby was going to die.
Yep. And the crazy thing is they gave the baby back to her.
Yes. I think she was in the hospital for 1 week and then they let her go.
Yep. They put her in the psych ward for a week and then released her and then gave her baby back. And then, she was still abusive to the baby. She would push a stroller down the street and not have the baby slapped in there, and she would violently hit bumps and shake it and go up and down curbs and things, and the baby would be bouncing around, and people in town were scared of her because she was nuts.
Yeah,
But
everyone
eventually,
knew her.
yeah, everybody knew her, and they didn't want to tangle with her because they knew that she was crazy and that she'd probably hurt them if they interfered. But the cops were called another time when she was, violently having the baby in that stroller. The cops came out, and I believe they put her back in the psych ward, but they only kept her. It was a few days or a week tops at that point too. They didn't hold her long whenever she was in the different wards.
She did have was it a longer stay when she kidnapped the neighbor
Yeah.
when she wanted to go. She's like, oh, I need to go get my baby, and the neighbor's like, oh, okay, like from her parents. She's like, well, let me grab my brother. And you could tell Katherine was a little annoyed that her brother had to come with. And so once they get in the car, she's like, well, we're actually going to this other town. I'm going to go kill David, her husband. Which
Yeah.
the neighbor was like, no, I'm not doing that, and it was like hours away on top of it. And she's like, no, we're going. So she starts driving, and, the neighbor's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so she's like, well, I need to get gas. So she pulls off to get gas, runs inside to the gas station. Oh my God. You're just like reading this, your heart's just like pounding because you're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Yeah,
And
because
then,
the girl's little brother's in the back seat.
yes. And so Katherine wasn't even gone that long. Katherine was, telling the gas station attendant what was going on, but she wasn't even gone long enough where it should have been suspicious at that point. And she, what do you want to say? Like,
Yeah.
turned the knife on the brother, like holding him hostage.
Yeah, not Catherine. Catherine's neighbor had run in.
Yeah, Catherine's neighbor had run in.
Catherine was in the car, with the girl's brother. And once, Catherine figured out what the girl was doing, got out of the car and because the little brother, I think, started to run, and she grabbed him.
Yeah, she
and had
did.
the knife pushed up against his throat. And they had called the police and everything. And Catherine, like, pretty much was like egging them on to try to do something.
Oh, wait. Yes, she also had stabbed the neighbor girl, like, in the mouth or something.
Yeah, she stabbed her in the cheek. That's right.
Yes, yes.
So she was, and she said that it was the knife went all the way through her cheek, and as like every time like she moved her mouth, it split more. So she had blood all over her face when she had gone into the gas station, which is probably why the attendant took her seriously. Anyways, but then the way that they got the knife away from Catherine, because she started swinging it around. When the cops showed up and stuff, the gas station attendant, I believe, had a broomstick or a mop handle or something like that, and swung it and smacked the knife out of Catherine's hand. And that's how she ended up being able to be detained. But it took both officers to be able to hold Catherine to actually arrest her. She was just so big and so strong and so full of anger that her strength was incredible.
I mean, she worked in a slaughterhouse, for goodness sake, like deboning things. She was strong.
Yes.
She knew how to wield a knife. Oh man, and that landed her a stay. I think she was there for about a month by the time David actually came to get her out.
Yeah, because David decided that he actually did love Catherine Stone, and he felt bad because he felt responsible, I think, for her complete downfall up until that point. Like, maybe if he didn't leave, all that wouldn't have happened, kind of thing. I think if he hadn't left when he did, he'd probably been dead. But
I thought for sure she was going to slaughter him the moment she saw him.
Oh, yeah. But
I was like, what are you doing? You're stupid. He left his pregnant mistress to go back to get his crazy wife. I mean, come on, you're probably, few cards short of a full deck if you're going to, do that. And when she was in the mental hospital, her parents were taking care of her baby.
Right.
So when David picks her up from the mental hospital, they go to her parents' house. She like rips the baby from them, and she's like, screaming at her parents, "You left me there. David came back to get me. He loves me." Blah blah blah. I'm thinking, oh dear Lord, this is going to be it. Someone's going to die, but surprisingly not yet.
No. And they actually, I think she and David stayed together for a while. Because they
Because
ended up
at that point, they had another child, and it was like a couple years later.
Yeah, I think when the oldest one turned 4 or something like that, they ended up getting divorced, and Katherine moved into this little kind of small, it sounded like maybe a rundown house, and she decorated it with all sorts of knives and skins and very dark, that she felt comfortable with, that she enjoyed all around this house, and lived there with her children for a while until she met her next more serious love interest from the mines, I believe. I think he came from the mines, right?
He could have.
He
I
came.
don't
I
remember
think
that part.
he was a miner, and he had heard from people in town and everything because he liked to go to the bar sometimes, and that's where he met her. But a lot of the miners stayed in. The miners had their own like union hall type thing where they typically stayed, but every once in a while they would go up to the bar that the slaughterhouse guys were at, and that's where he had met Katherine, and was attracted to her there.
Did you say that she got divorced from David?
Yeah, she was divorced from David.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And he had met her there, and he had gotten warnings from all the other guys in town, like, she's crazy, she's violent, like, she will hurt you. And he was just like, oh, yeah, thinking that they were giving him a hard time and things like that. He had, like, or maybe she was a little feisty, but again, was very intense and liked a lot of sex and over and over and over. And it just pulled him into this whole idea of what she was, and she put on that facade for a while where she kept things perfect and everything was perfect, and she kept her temper at bay.
Did they ever get married? I couldn't remember, because I feel like she only ever married the first guy.
No, she wanted him to marry her, and she begged him and begged him and begged him, and he wouldn't marry her. And I think originally he was going to, but then for whatever reason decided not to. But no, they never ended up getting married. But he had children, and Katherine had the children, and he had 2 kids, and Katherine had the 2 kids, and he had let Katherine and the children move into his house at some point. And Katherine kept her other house, but she moved in with this other fellow.
David Saunders.
Yeah, David Saunders. Oh, yeah, it was another David, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so anyway,
they got the dog.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the dog. They got the dog for the kids. Yeah, and David had, I don't remember if he was out a few minutes too late or what the deal was, but she was starting to accuse this David of going out on her and cheating on her and being attracted to other women, and what was he doing, and he was 3 minutes late and things like that. And she took the dog and lifted it up by the scruff of its neck and slit its throat right in front of him, and killed the dog. Yeah, it just horrible. It just like, it's funny because, I feel bad for human victims and crimes, but there's like something that just completely
a special hell for
people that kill and hurt animals. It's like, I don't know, that dog couldn't have done anything to stop her. That poor thing. But yeah, and at that point he was kind of like, whoa, this chick, has lost it. And was it after she killed the dog, he booted her out of the house, and she went and back to live in her house, and was just like begging him to let her move back in, and she wanted to be with him. And eventually
I thought that was the last guy. Or did it happen twice?
No, maybe that was the last guy. Sorry, I got mixed up.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of similarities and crossovers, between the guys.
Oh, yeah, it's the same old story over and over with literally every guy.
And this one, he did have one daughter with her, and she eventually had stabbed him in the stomach with scissors.
Yeah.
No vital organs were hit, and that was the last straw, and he left. And then he tried to get custody of his daughter, but she filed a restraining order against him, so that blocked him from trying to get custody.
Right. Yep. Yep. You're right. And that was how the second David, the end of him came about. And then the person I was thinking that was that John Chillingsworth. That's what the one that she moved in with his two children and her two.
Now, John Chillingworth had actually, Katherine had kind of what you would say like a crush on him years ago, but he didn't want to date her because he thought she was too young. But, as time goes on, the age difference becomes less, and they start dating.
Right. Yep. And fast forward, because now this is in 1989 now, by this point in time, when John Chillingsworth came back into Catherine's life after years of, not being around, and when they started their relationship. And I think he had divorced his wife by that time when they ended up getting together. And he did have a couple kids with his wife, and Catherine's now got, did she have 2 or 3 kids total?
She had 4 kids total. She had one more kid with John.
That's right. So she had 2 with her husband, 1 with the second David, and then 1 with John Chillingsworth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it was a son. So I think she had 3 girls and 1 son.
Right. Yep. And Katherine, when she was younger and John was around, she would always flirt with him and stuff, and it always made him uncomfortable. And he admitted at one point, it was intriguing, but at the same time, like you said, she was just too young for him. And I think it was weird, too, that her dad at that time had worked in the slaughterhouse and was always around when Katherine was flirting with him and stuff like that. But fast forward to now 1989, and now, yeah, like you said, the age difference doesn't seem as important since they're both
like a good 10, at least a good 10 years had gone by, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
10 or 15 maybe even.
Yeah. And yeah, John had invited her to somewhat move into his house, not I don't think permanently, but pretty much live in his house full time. But she did keep her little house, I think, for the duration of this book anyway. I don't know what would have happened to it after that, but
she at some point was it sorry listeners, she got that large settlement from the slaughterhouse because she kind of like went on disability and she couldn't work anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And she used that to like pay for the house, like it was hers.
Yep. She paid off that little house, and so it was hers. And like I said, she had it decorated the way she wanted, and she didn't want to let that go, which was good for when John, later had kicked her out because he got tired of her screaming rages and always accusing him of things. Because like it's the same old story as with every other man she was with. Everything would be fine for a while, and then she would get jealous for whatever reason or another. And the bad thing is for her, it's like, it seems like all the men that she was with were genuinely good guys when she was first with them, before she, was crazy to them. They all were very loyal. They treated her well. It seems like they were all really good. She was the problem. And, she was with John for a while, and with his kids and her kids, and kind of a blended family there. And then in 1990, she did give birth to her only son, Eric, that she had with John. But they weren't married either. She had only been married that one time.
And she did try to overdose on pills with John Chillingsworth.
Yeah, she later. You're talking about.
Yeah, he left after that point, right?
Hang on a second. Let me skim this real quick, because I know at the very end of the book, after she did everything, she tried to OD.
No. At that with John, she tried to overdose, and he drove her to the hospital.
That could have been. Yeah, that could have been to. Yeah, I think you're right.
I think And I think at that point he decided to leave, and he was the only person who did not have like a scar given to him by Katherine.
Right. Right.
So then enters the last man in Katherine's life, John Price.
Yeah. John Price. She liked men that had the same names, and
You
that's it's
know,
easy to get them confused with each
I know
other.
David, John.
Yes. So, yes, John Price came into her life, and once again, same old story. And, she went over the top to impress him. Everything was perfect, and she still had that intensity and everything like that would draw them in. This John was warned by people that she was unhinged. Again, he didn't listen. So it's really
Her
the
first
same story.
husband came back and said, "Don't, date her, stay away." And at some point when everyone's telling you, "Hey, this woman's crazy," at some point it should be like, "You know what? They're probably right. I should probably leave, while I still can."
Yeah, yeah. And John Price, Catherine had wanted him to marry her, and he wouldn't, again. And, she would beg and beg him. And as they wouldn't get married, I think that, just spun the jealousy wheel in her head more and more. But it's not as if when she did get married to David the first time that made it any like less. She just gets more possessive as time goes on. And when John Price wanted pretty much nothing to do with her anymore is when all hell broke loose. She finally lost her mind by the time she was with John Price, and things got bad. Do you want to talk about John Price at this point, like what happened to him?
Yeah. Did you say that he did have two children of his own?
Yeah, he had kids of his own too. Yep.
Yeah, so she's got her 4 kids. He's got 2 kids. And at this point, he did kick her out of the house.
Mhm.
And she wanted her revenge. And so, did he have the door unlocked or did she still have a key?
Well, he had gone into the house and he did not lock the door behind him.
Okay.
Right? Yes.
Yeah,
He had gone home. He had sent the kids to sleepovers, or she did. Either Catherine or he had sent the kids to sleepovers. It was him because he was worried because remember he was telling people, if something happens to him or if he doesn't show up to work or whatever, that something's happened to him. And he had sent his kids sleepover at friends' houses. And yeah, he was worried, if he didn't show up for work or anything, things like that, that something had happened to him. And when he went home, I don't know if he usually locked the door or out of habit did not lock the door, but he didn't.
he was talking with his neighbor when he got home first.
Yeah.
Because the neighbor wanted to check in on him.
Mm-hmm. Because, yeah, they had some problems with Catherine and he was worried for his safety or whatever. But
and for good reason.
Yes. And so Catherine had gotten into the house because he didn't lock the door. And she had, came prepared with her knives. And I know that at first she had stabbed him several times and he had been able to crawl.
Wait, she had sex with him first.
Yes, she did.
She wanted to catch him off guard, and he was sleeping, and she got on top of him, and he was able to get an erection, and she got on him, and he woke up while they were having sex. And at first, I think he was kind of into it, and then he realized, oh, crap, it's Katherine, something bad's going to happen, and he was right, and she started stabbing him.
Yeah, but after he finished, he kind of pushed her off. And that made her very unhappy. And she started, stabbing him. And he was able to get away and kind of crawl to the front door. And he had crawled out of the house and grabbed him by his ankles and drug him back inside and shut and locked the door. so he wouldn't be able to go back out again. And she continued to stab him. And this is where, she used her slaughterhouse skills.
Oh.
She actually skinned him and hung his back skin up over a doorway in the house, and she took off his head and put it into a pot and chopped up vegetables and started to boil his head with the vegetables.
She wanted to serve his kids, their father.
Yeah, she had this idea in her head that she was going to, and then have a dinner set up with his children and serve him to his children. And she cut off his buttocks and made like steaks, I guess, and threw them with some vegetables in the oven or something like that. 2 big pieces, and then it's not funny, but
Wait,
it's
hang on.
kind of funny.
She also positioned him in a chair and
That's
he was holding a bottle of lemonade.
Yes, he was holding a bottle of lemonade, and she was trying to get him to hold like a paper and cross his legs and position him, because she wanted him to be sitting in a position where the kid, like, it would seem natural, like, except for he had no head
And
so
no skin.
or skin. But this is where my problem with the title of this book, I guess, comes into play with me. It's called Maneater, and it talks about a cannibalistic female. She's not a cannibal. While she did cook his head and she made the 2 steaks, she said they smelled really good. And when she took them out, she decided she wanted to try it. So she cut a piece and put it in her mouth, and she thought it was so grotesque. She spit it out in the sink and didn't eat it. And at that point, she's like, well, his kids will never eat this. So she had set the plates and everything, thinking that, she was going to do that. And then she's like, well, they're never going to eat this. This isn't going to work. It's horrible. So that's when she decided to do what she did next. I'll let you talk about that.
What did she do next? Because now...
her grandiose plan was, to feed him to the children, and then that wouldn't work. So then she decided that she was going to take pills, and she was going to overdose again and went to lay down.
But the cops came because he didn't show up for work.
Right.
And the cops weren't even sure exactly what they were looking at when they first got there. When they saw the skin hung, they didn't realize what it was at first.
Yeah, it took them a while.
Then they were able to pick out a nose and pubic hair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the skills that she had to have to take off his skin like that.
Yeah.
Katherine did not die of an overdose. They rescued her. They came out with the diagnosis of BPD, which I think, if I remember correctly, it's BPD is kind of like caused by trauma, I think.
Yeah.
So, having the troubled childhood that she had, it makes sense of not excusing what she did, but, they understand, I guess, where she came from. She is jailed with the possibility of no parole. And someone tried to get her released, early or something, but they told them no, that she has no remorse for what she's done, that she's just going to be in jail for life, and she's probably still alive at this point.
Oh yeah, I would think so, because all that happened, that was early 90s. So and in 2006 she had launched an appeal against her sentence, claiming it was too harsh for a single murder.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and so a panel of 3 in the New South Wales, the judges gathered to review her case, and no, they came to the conclusion, like, no, your sentence is good for because of the way that she killed poor John Price and what she did and what her intentions were with, cooking his head, and, it was really above and beyond. It's not like she got upset and shot the guy and he didn't suffer and it wasn't horrible. I mean, premeditated this. She planned it out. She brought her knives with her. She knew exactly what she was going to do, and she loved doing it. You have to imagine that she was probably just in such a state of bliss when she was chopping him up like a pig in the slaughterhouse.
he had 37 or 38 stab wounds.
That they could
That's
count.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, because they had at the end they said, it would be as possible for Catherine to felt bad about what she did to John Price, just as it would be possible for a lioness to feel bad for the gazelle when it rips its throat out. You know, that's just how it was. She was the predator and he was prey, and that's how she treated it, and that's why she doesn't feel sorry. She doesn't consider, I don't think, men as people. They're just no more than pigs to her. So she doesn't feel bad for them. She doesn't. I don't think she feels bad for anybody.
Honestly, I'm surprised more people didn't die in this story.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think this is one of the few books that we've read where there's only one victim, and I'm not disappointed by that. Given her violent past and how she treated the men, I'm surprised more people didn't die.
Oh yeah. I mean, not for lack of trying though. She tried to kill her baby at least on one occasion that we know about. That's
Yeah.
documented, and who knows. And she could very well have other victims that just nobody knows was her. As rageful as she was and violent as she was, it wouldn't be surprising.
I am curious to know how her children are being raised. Like, are they normal? Because Catherine's mom, Barbara, she disclosed way too many details about her life to her children, to the point where, it was affecting Catherine. And, Catherine, they kind of said, she did confide in her daughters too, but not explicit sex details, although I think the kids heard her having sex all the time.
Oh, yeah. From the descriptions of it, I don't know how they couldn't have. But yeah, she was definitely an interesting twist to read just because we've read
Oh, wait,
about
sorry. We left out a part of the story too where, sorry, it just came to me. She tried to frame him like he was a pedophile.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
she,
right.
she wrote a note and she didn't have very good grammar, or spelling, but they got the gist of that. She killed him because he was a pedophile.
Yeah, she tried to defame him after the fact, and nobody believed her. It was a ridiculous claim. Luckily, nobody believed her because that would have been just a sad thing for, he wasn't around to defend himself anymore at that point. But it was an interesting read in the fact that it was a female murderer that we read about this time, where we usually read about serial killers. They kill several people, but her crime was bad enough against one person that, like you say, I'm not disappointed that she didn't slaughter a lot of people. She was definitely capable of it. But it was interesting to see into the mind a little bit of a female murderer versus what we have been reading. But I think it's a stretch for them to call her a cannibal when she never actually swallowed any.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
flesh.
the title of the book is called Maneater. Obviously they were trying to draw people in. It worked. We read the book, but yeah, she's not a cannibal.
I mean, I guess it's disturbing in itself that she even thought to cut off his head and cook it with vegetables, and think that's not a normal a normal thing even on the scope of murderers. But she was definitely an odd one, horrifying actually.
I mean, I hope her children end up with, as much of a normal life as they can have. Like what if you found out like your parents, killed someone and then, tried to feed them to, children, and, like, how do you handle that as, a child of, a killer? Like, what do you do?
Move far away and change my name. That's what I would do. I'd disappear, kind of like, Ted Bundy's daughter, was in the wind and changed her name and everything like that. So that's probably what I would do, is I'd change my name and move as far away as I possibly could. I don't know what else I would do. I wouldn't want to be anywhere near whatever horrible act they committed. But I would read the book about them if they wrote one.
You would read it?
Yeah, I'd read it if somebody wrote a book about it. But
Do you think you could handle reading the details that your parent did in killing somebody?
Yeah, I mean, as long as it wasn't a family member, I guess. I don't know. As long as you could separate yourself a little bit, there'd be a morbid curiosity there, just like there is with why we read these books now. And I'm fairly confident that my parents aren't that way, so it's easier to say what you
I
do.
I can safely say I think both our parents are
Yeah,
in the.
we have really good parents, and it would be horrifyingly shocking to find that out. I don't think that's going to happen, but yeah, it's easier to say what you think you'd do when there's literally no chance of that actually being true. So that I know of, I guess.
I don't know if I could separate myself enough to read the story.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's not go in. Let's
Let's hope
not
we
find
don't have
out.
to find
Hey,
out. Yeah.
I know my mom listens to the podcast. Mom, please don't give me a reason to be in that situation. There we go.
And I think my mom does too. So hey, mom, if you are a murderer, don't come after me. I'm not outing you. We were just talking hypothetics. Don't bury me in your backyard.
Um, if Stacey disappears, I know who my first suspect is going to be. I'm looking at you, Stacey's mom.
You know who you are.
This is kind of a segue into we do have two books that we have next on our reading list. Jeffrey Dahmer is probably going to come first, and then O.J. Simpson, because here we actually have a true cannibal. I don't think that's a spoiler because I think everyone, who knows Jeffrey Dahmer knows he ate people.
Mm-hmm.
And O.J. Simpson, there's going to be a twist coming out with that we're going to talk about. And kind of when we're talking about children, it makes me think of like O.J. Simpson's children, because a topic for that podcast, but it's kind of like, do they think that their father killed their mother, and if so, how do they cope with that?
Right. Yeah.
Any more final thoughts?
No, not that I can think of. Looking forward to. Well, we had originally planned on doing Jeffrey Dahmer along with this book until we read this book and realized he was
Yes.
gonna.
Yeah,
So
we were gonna compare and contrast Jeffrey Dahmer and Katherine Knight, but she wasn't really a cannibal, so it didn't kind of really seem like we should do a compare and contrast with it.
too
So
many differences. He was a serial killer. She killed one, and it was just the contrast of them was too great to compare. So I'm glad we did it this way instead. But yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer is definitely so far an interesting one, and I look forward to talking about that too.
yes. So many. It's like I'm reading the book. I just want to be like, Stacey, did you just read this part? Like, oh my God, and it's and stupid people and stupid. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like, and we're like, nope, but we can't talk about it. We gotta wait. It's gotta be genuine on the podcast, so we'll wait.
I don't. I don't know when you read, but I read when I'm on the train, and my train leaves at 5:30 in the morning. So, like, at 5:30 in the morning, I'm reading, like, these graphic details. I'm just like, is it too early to be reading this?
I read at night before I go to bed, so yeah, I don't have to, spend my whole day, but I'm sure it does influence my dreams at night when I go to bed to that, but
Yeah,
that's
that raises a good point. I read on my train ride in and usually the train ride home, which that's like a 4 o'clock train. So, I'm not reading directly before I go to bed. Although sometimes like, should I read a little before I go to bed? But now you just, made me feel like I shouldn't because I don't want that influencing my dream.
might have nightmares.
Yeah.
I dream like a Stephen King book, whether I read serial killer books before bed or not. So it just probably affects the direction of the horrible things I dream about. So it's all good. It works out.
Okay, well, on that note, we will, I guess, leave. Well, shut your podcast, whatever. We're going away now. We'll be back, and I don't know when this will be released, because my husband Nick has the main podcast, so I guess his episodes probably come before mine. But we will see you in hopefully a few weeks. So have a good night.
You've been listening to the all-new Culture Cast. We try to post new episodes every Monday evenings 3 to 4 times a month. Check out our backlog. We can be found at allnewculturecast.libsyn.com. You can also find us on Apple iTunes and wherever else podcasts can be downloaded and listened to. This has been the all-new Culture Cast, a Saltwater production. Original material copyright 2020. Thanks for listening.
Oh. Pickles just fell off the windowsill. Sorry.
Who did?
Pickles, my cat. She just
Oh.
fell climbing up, and looks like she must have saw something that interested her outside the window, and then she just fell backwards off of the windowsill.
Cats.